It is November 21st now, 2005, here in Washington, D.C. And I'm with my good friend Lee Dobson, my compadre. And if this hat could talk, it is 2:11 a.m. We've completed. Excuse me for my hesitancy, but I'm trying to figure out what we have just done.
To play.
Yeah,
play boss.
We came here to DC to begin our tour of If This Hat Could Talk, and our second day found out that we were closing. And this was our closing day. But nonetheless, that is not why I'm here talking to Lee. I'm here talking to him for his contribution in my project of tap dancing on a tightrope. And my first question to you is the phrase tap dancing on a tightrope. What does that spark for you? What is that? What do you think of when you hear that?
Okay. Oh, well. First off, my dad was a tap dancer, so I deplore tap dancing. If you grow up with a tap dancer, there is something about tap that the rhythms are in your head no matter, and you get tired of it. But when I hear the word tap dancing on a tightrope, it takes me somewhere else, because the tightrope to me means that we are in a tightrope is a narrow choice that we make in life, and that we have these narrow moments that are not broad. And so sometimes in those narrow moments we have to not only be the most careful in our life, but we also have to be the most flexible in our lives in order to get over to the other side, like in the circus. And so when we tap dance on this rope, sometimes there's a safety net and sometimes there's not. And so, you know, Marshall, why you give me such a broad metaphor, you know, tap dancing on a tightrope? Because that goes so, I see, you know, the tightrope, you know, how George say, walk the tightrope, children, because it's not safe up in here. Well, life is like that tightrope. It's not just show business. It's not, you know, you remember when we were on the phone one time and I said, you know, life is like a series of getting through one crisis after another, you know, and that's what life tends to be. You know, there's a calm period, and then there's this crisis, and then there's a calm period, and there's another crisis. Well, that crisis to me is the tightrope period of our lives. It's taut. Things not lax. You can't breathe. You have to, you know, if you talk to aerialists, these people who walk on the tightropes, they tell you that most of the time they take one breath and they don't exhale until they get to the other side. And I think that's kind of like how we are in life when we're in those narrow moments in our life where life is like a tightrope and you're on guard and on cue at all times. And then just as you get out there in the middle of the tightrope and you're doing just fine, here comes some motherfucker tap dancing over on the other end, and he's juggling you and working your nerves even more. And you know, you can't get through this moment without somebody tap dancing over there on your tightrope and everything. And you know, so that's an image. I actually traveled to several different schools. The civil rights movement came to being in my development as a young teenager, and I dropped out and joined movements and causes. And you know, I was one of these kids driven by a cause, married to an ideal that America could live out some kind of like weird crazy dream. And I grew up in the South, and the South was really very strange because there was a reality of the South that said nigger you understand the rules and you play them, and if you play them right, things will be good. If you buck these rules, we can make your life kind of miserable. And I didn't like that as a kid. I did not like being part of being told or not having because of being black. So when the kids sat in Greensboro, and I thought that was such a great thing for those college kids from A&T to do. I was driven at that moment. I said, this is it. So I would join, I would drop out. I would go to a college. I would go to a college and I stay a few months and then drop out. And then finally I found my way to Howard University. And that, I think, was the beginning of my life as an artist, because I was no longer interested in being a doctor. I knew then and there that theater is where I wanted to be. And I planted my dreams from there. Even though I got my degree in chemistry, zoology, I would never go to graduate school or to medical school. I knew it in my heart. And my mom wanted me to be happy. So she said, baby, you go ahead and do what's been a daredevil. And I've always taken risks, and fools rush in where angels fear to tread, and wise men never come. So I've been so many places. And so I would never have done that unless I had not just done it. You just don't plan it. You do it. You go. You do. You feel. You be. You exist. You know.
What has been your fondest memory, or what has brought you the greatest joy? Is there one moment, or not just, maybe it doesn't have to be just one moment, but has there been something in theater as an artist that has brought you,
Well.
Okay.
Wait, years ago, a dear friend of mine, Glenda Dickerson, who teaches at the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor now, wrote a play based on the novel, Their Eyes Were Watching God. And I was very fortunate to create the role of Tea Cake, the first real legit tea cake on the American stage. And that role was so tailor-made for me. I got such great pleasure out of doing that role. But I've done some Shakespeare, I've done classical theater, I've done some great work in my lifetime that has given me great pleasure, but I started laughing in the beginning because no matter how old you get, somehow or another, if your parents are still with you, there is this driving need to please them. And I flew my mom up here for this show I was doing, an adaptation of Shakespeare's Macbeth that Orson Welles did back in the 1930s. And it was a black Macbeth. And they had brought in all the great black stars, and Esther Rolle, who was Florida on Good Times at the time, she was playing Lady Macbeth. And I flew my mother up here. And that show lasted like 4 hours. And on opening night, the house was full. And by the time we came out for the curtain call, there was like 25 lonely souls later, still sitting in the audience, my mother one of them. And when it was all over with, she said, honey, if this is what you're going to be doing, you need to take your ass back to school.